So, had a malfunction. Still don't have a charger. You'd like to donate to my channel. I really appreciate it. And my phone bill is due. Okay. Y'all already know my story, my age. They don't too much like give me a job. They give me problems. And if y'all look at my other channel, Lies Magazine, name of it. Yeah. You know why. Okay, grim, I glimpsed and stood, trying angrily away from. This is remaining of chapter two, hard lessons. Okay, I glimpsed and stood, turning angrily away from the room that I couldn't really explore, but the walls leaned in close, and I couldn't help that my arm brushed against the black door. It had appeared right next to me this time, almost as if it wanted me to bump into it. When I did, something tickled my skin. Then an exhaustion of whisper. Without thinking, I put my ear to the smooth surface, since I could have sworn I've heard something. It was like putting my cheek to someone's chest. Sorry. There was the same warmth, the aliveness, thriving through it. No, that's not thriving. Thrumming, THRUMMING, through it like a heat heartbeat, a scab pickled, prickled my hamstrings with what felt like a breath. Kamara, if the night wind could whisper, this would have been its voice. There was no doubt about what I heard. I threw myself back, crushing into the opposite wall and banging my head. I stared at the door, wide-eyed, and it once again seemed to stare back at me. For a moment, my face was reflected in the sheen of the gleaming surface. If it knew me, but I didn't know it. But once the part of me that wanted to was overwhelmed by fear. I didn't care about the secrets held by this dark soul or what my mother would think about me leaving so soon. I tore open the other door to the outside, to my body, to safe familiarity, and hurled through it. I was 16 when I yelled at the door. It was in my bed, and a girl, Sierra, was propped on her elbows above me, her long dark hair curling our faces, curtaining our faces. She was kissing me, and I was trying to kiss her back. I couldn't silence the buzzing in my head, not a pleasurable buzz, but more like a aggravated hive of bees. I couldn't think. There was only the hum of wrongness. It wasn't helping my technique. Not that I've been taught much, either by my mother or Ramses or anyone else. To be fair, I hadn't asked. I told myself again that I wanted this, but I couldn't silence the rising scream inside of me. This no, the no. I long thought Sierra was beautiful, and I even had the urge to be near her. But as soon as she started kissing me, as soon as I started even imagining going beyond kissing with her, I lost interest. More than that, I wanted to run the other way. The solid posts and silk sheets of my bed, growing softly in the spicy candlelight air, no longer felt like a hand cuddling me in safety, but one offering me up, exposing me, and Hezra, statue with its secret smile, gracing my bedside stand, seemed to know something I didn't. Kara pulled away, her lips glistering. Are you okay? Yes, fine, I said a little breathlessly, following her gaze down along my body to my fists, which were crumpling the satin sheets of my gripping the seat. So the satin skirt of my lace trimmed nightgown. I want this. No, I don't. But I want to soul walk to join the Twilight Guide. And this is how I do it. Be brave. Sarah took one of my hands. I managed to unclench it. Have you ever done this before with a girl? She asked, tracing my fingers with a lovely gentleness that made me shiver. She thought I feared something new, so didn't know how. She didn't know I feared something I didn't want, had never wanted, and might never want. No, not with the boy or girl, I admitted, a brush flaring up in my face, but I like both. I like the look of both. Both had the potential to make me want to draw nearer, but when I did, there was something. There was nothing. I had a complete lack of that desire to get even closer and less clothed, which everyone thought around me seemed to have. That was more embarrassing to me, a much deeper secret than my lack of experience. Musa. Sarah Graham, and it was an evil, beautiful thing. I can teach you how. It was if she were talking about how to feel what she felt, rather than how to have sex, and I wanted to believe she could. Okay, I whispered. She leaned in to kiss me again. This time her hand reached down and started gliding up my leg, lifting my nightgown, seeking. My hand shot out before I could help it. Don't, I grasped, panicked, against her lip. Against her lips, I tore my own lips away and flung my head to the side. Horror at what I had done flooded me, and I glanced back at her with wide eyes. Sorry, I. Sierra rolled off me. It's okay, she said, though she was clearly disappointed. She sat up and smoothed the front of her nightgown over a lovely pair of breasts. Not lovely enough, apparently, for me. Nothing was ever enough. We were just supposed to be playing cards anyway, and then going to bed while our mothers and Helen have their fun. She sounded very much like she wanted to be having that sort of fun too. We've been playing cards downstairs earlier, while whiling away the time as Ramsay made eyes at both of us, but Clara only had eyes for me. We'd gone upstairs early, giggling, leaving Ramsay flushed and frustrated, but I had ruined it. I felt ruined, broken, for the life out of me. I couldn't figure out why. At least I knew what made a disappointment to Sierra and my mother, myself. My lack of sexual desire was all too obvious, but I didn't know why I was this way. Afterwards, Sierra and I hardly spoke, beyond what was required for another uninspired round of gods and kings. It didn't help my mood or hers that I beat her. Afterwards, she rolled over on my silken bed cover and sniffed out sniffed out the candle, or snuffed out, whatever. I wanted to soul walk, but it took me a while to fall asleep lying next to Sierra. Being in bed with another person was supposed to make it easier to use my talent, not harder. Yet another thing I was failing at this night. I eventually ended up in Sarah's soul. It was a stone house, small but nice enough, tidy with rich wood accents. I didn't pause to look around because the black door stood across from me, and it drew all it drew all my suddenly furious attention. What do you want? I shouted at it before I really knew what I was saying. Before I realized realized what I actually wanted to say. What do you want? No one was apparently the answer. I knew what it wanted anyway. My mother had warned me long ago, and I felt it every time I had seen it since. It was evening for throwing desires. I didn't open it, and strangely I felt nearly as regretful in denying the black door as I had Sierra. I was 16 when the door gave me a gift. One late afternoon, my mother called me to the sitting room. She'd been pantsing there all day and laughing less and less for months while the faint lines in her lovely face deepened. Kamara, she said, taking my shoulders, which were no longer lower than hers. I was expecting her to comment, like usual, on the fact that my dress was too darker for the sun, dry season, making me look morbid instead of appealing, but it was far more serious than that. I can't complain. I can't explain everything, but you must listen to me. If something happens before I can get you away from here, go to your father in the capital. His name is Jidras, Jardis, Numa, and he won't like it, but he'll take you in. You may not like it either, but it's the only place that will be safe. Wait, what? I wanted to reel back, but my mother's grip kept me rooted. She never told me anything about my father. I hadn't even known that she knew who he was. Why now? For a second I thought it was because I was failing her so badly. There had been no awakening of my desire, which was making it harder and harder for me to get near enough to anyone to soul walk, harder and harder to follow my mother into the twilight guard, whatever. If I could have made myself more like her, so beautiful and beguiling and knowing, not only would I discover the world's dark secrets for myself, but maybe I wouldn't feel broken anymore. Maybe I could make her proud. But this, but desire wasn't something I could study and learn to feel, just like my soul wasn't something I could search for and discover. All I had was the black door, and I could never open it. I couldn't feel the proper things I should have felt, and the one forbidden things I shouldn't have wanted was what I craved most. Maybe she was casting me away because I truly was broken. Reading my face, she said, Chimera, my sweetness, it's not you. I've done something I might regret. What have you done? She smiled faintly. I fell in love. The smile vanished, replaced by steel. Forget everything I've told you about the Twilight Guard. Forgive me. I wasn't entirely honest with you for reasons I can't explain right now. They were bad. They are dangerous to you and me, very. And whatever you do, don't trust any of their members, not even Ramsey. Stay away from him. If anything terrible happens, they're all responsible. I could have laughed, if not for how grieved and urgent she sounded. At 19, Ramsey was moody and withdrawn, but not dangerous. Then again, I don't know quite what role he had played for the Guard in recent years, since I haven't been able to join him and learn for myself. What about Helen? I asked, breathless. Her soft smile returned, and suddenly I knew whom she had fallen in love with after these years. He won't be the problem in any case, but stay away from Ramsey. Now go, pack only what you might need. Wait, right this moment? What about you? I have places I can hide. If she didn't finish, and I got the sick suspicion her silence would have ended with, if I make it. Come with me, I said. I'm sure my father will hide you as well. She shook her head roughly. I doubt that very much. In any case, I can't follow you right now, Camara, because I only put you in greater danger. My mother no longer held me in place. In fact, she was trying to steer me away from her, but I kept my feet planted. I'm not leaving without you. The steer returned to my mother's voice and flinched away from it. You will do as I say. Go pack and don't panic. We have some time before they make their move. As it happened, she was wrong. A short while later, a little after sunset, someone pounded on the doors of our villa. I've been gathering my things in my bedroom in a haze of disbelief, unsure this was actually happening. When I heard the noise, I leaped up to peer downstairs through the crack of my door. My mother glanced up in my direction. Don't let them in, she shouted at the wreck of servants hurrying toward the commotion. The pounding turned to hammering. The doors shuddered on their hinges. Stay hidden, Camara, and run. Those were the only words my mother had time to spare for me. I didn't run. I couldn't. You there, she continued to the servants. Bar the doors. Arm yourselves with whatever you can. She herself seized an onyx axe from a plaque on the wall. It was nearly too heavy for her. The tip guarded the floor, but she managed to heave it upward. I cast about for some weapon of my own, but my broom held only soft things. In the meantime, Zelda and another servant were dragging a heavy chair to block the entrance. None of our efforts mattered. A group of men wearing soldier uniforms kicked in the doors. Before my mother could do more than glimpse swing her axe, which they deflected easily, they slit the servants' throats in the candlelight entryway faster than I could know the line of their daggers. Zelda, who I'd known most of my life, fell grudgingly and choking on her own blood. Damn. And then there in the front room, without any ceremony, one of them ran my mother through with the sword. Oh shit. The blade entered underneath the front of her rib cage and came out red from between her shoulders. Her eyes widened, beautiful lips parting, and she made a sound like a strangled cough. But when her attacker lowered his sword, she was silent as she slid off and fell to the ground, her own weapon slipping with limp fingers. My knees hit my bedroom floor at the same time. I choked on a scream, my agony silent, just like my mother's. She wouldn't have wanted me to draw attention to myself, but my silence was less for survival's sake and more because I was paralyzed by the sight below me. All I could see was her blood soaking into a pale blue rug and pooling on the white towel beneath her. Her lips jerked, and yet her eyes were sightless. A pierced keen rose in my ears, but only in my head, a scream I hadn't released. One of the soldiers, his blade gleams red, called out, Camilla! I dropped all the way to the floor, fist in my mouth to keep even my ragging breath from reaching him. Why me? Was all I could think. Why not Helena or Ramsey as well? The soldier tried to move for the stairs, but another caught his arm, pulling him back, shaking his head. If the girl was in the house, she's not now. She wouldn't have kept quiet through all this. Let's go. He gestured at a third soldier who poured a clear liquid all over the floor, including the base of the stairs, flinging it on the curtains and furniture while he was at it. They weren't going to leave anything behind. They knocked over a standing candelabra, and all the guards backed out the front doors and into the evening as everything went in flames. Damn. Strange comforts. I dashed to the top, chapter 3. I dashed to the top landing to go down to my mother, but the heat was sudden, immense, like running into a wall. I leaped back involuntarily away from the fire, my skirts nagging as I scrambled back down the upstairs hall on hands and knees. Thick black smoke was already pouring up after me, shining across the ceiling's bright mosaic like river rays over stones, swallowing them. I didn't make the decision to run from it. I just did. There was a second staircase the servants had used. They were all dead now. When I wrenched on the handle at the base of it, the door didn't budge. It was supposed to open into a back entryway with a door just beyond it that I'd often used to sneak out, but the soldiers must have barricaded it. I ran back up the stairs and had to drop into a crouch to breathe, coughing. I crawled into my room and kicked the door shut. Other than the haze in the air, it was peaceful, candles casting a soft glow over the teal and black swirls of the rug, the heap of silk pillows on the bed, and the statue of smiling syringe Hezra, like my entire life wasn't burning down around me. I fling open the window shutters. The grounds below were quiet in the deepening twilight. The air still hung heavy and hot from the day, but it was the only weakest whisper of the heat behind me. A horse swirling somewhere far away. Perhaps the men were gone, but it didn't matter. I'd still break my ankle if I jumped. I couldn't even see my landing. I spun back to the room, looking for anything I could use to climb down, but froze when I saw the smoke flooding and under the crack of my bedroom door, forcing its way in. There wasn't time. I had nowhere to go. If the black door had suddenly appeared in the waking world, I would have thrown it open and dashed inside to escape. Chimera, come a horse, came a hoarse shout. I turned back to the window, splitting and coughing. It was too dark to see clearly, but a shape slipped out of the shadows of our garden. Jump, Chimera, and I'll catch you. I wasn't sure who it was, but I didn't think twice. I tossed my legs over the steel, only making sure my skirt were clear, and then shoved myself out into the night. It wasn't like the stories where the brave rescuer catches his lady and sits her on her feet in the same smooth motion. I may have been slight, but I hit hard. My cheek smashed into a shoulder, my skin tore against the studs of leather bracelets, and my delicate silk dress ripped it at the waist. My weight dragged both of us to the ground, knocking the breath from my lungs. So I couldn't scream when I saw it was Ramsay who caught me. He set me upward, his arm firm and steady around my back, despite my collision. Are you hurt? Can you move? I opened my mouth, but only a gasp and cough. My mother's words echoed in my mind. Dangerous. Stay away from him. Come on, he said, lifting me to my shaky feet, while he stood tall and strong from the years he'd grown and trained since boyhood. I'm not sure what Marvin did to bring this down on our heads, but you'll be safe if we hurry. The Twilighters will still take you in, even if you're not one of us. The Twilighters. My mother said they were behind this, and Ramsey was one of them. That was why my mother killers hadn't called his name, at least along with mine. He was already with them, and now he was likely trying to finish what they've started. to lure me closer in order to kill me, or as to rescue attempt was some other sort of trick to betray me to them. My mother had also told me to run, so even though it shamed me later, I did. Ramsey caught my arm before I made it 5 steps and hauled me back. Where are you going? The wagon is this way. Let me go, I screeched, trying to wrench my arm out of his grip. He held me tight, lifting his other hand in the darkness to his lips. Quiet, idiot. Are you trying to get yourself killed? At all at once I quit pulling away and turned on him, like I should have from the beginning. Why do you care? You want me dead anyway. This is all your fault. What? No, these were the king's soldiers. Anyone can hire soldiers or even dress like them, especially the Twilighters. I spat. I'm not an idiot, but I could be one to believe they're not responsible. Ramsey squirted. Why do you have reasons to fear the guard? What did your fool mother do to? He cut off when one of my hands caught him on the cheek, and other crawled for his eyes. Camara, stop. I didn't stop. I shrieked like a wild animal and threw myself upon him, hitting, scratching, and kicking. Somewhere in there were sobs and the grief that was eating me alive. I could tear Ramsey to pieces with my bare hands if it meant I could somehow escape it, reverse what had happened, bring my mother back to life. Ramsey seized my wrists, pinning them together, and tried to drag me with him. I bent and bit his hand as hard as I could. He shouted a curse and let me go. I took off a blind sprint in the opposite direction. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't go with him. He was one of them, the men who killed my mother and set fire to the villa. I wasn't sure why he wanted me to follow, but the reason couldn't be good for me. As if to prove me right, Ramsey slammed into me, bringing me to the ground. His weight crushed my ribs, twisting my wrists underneath me. His hand gripped the back of my neck, holding me down, and he leaned over and groaned in my ear. God, Camara, you stupid girl. Fight me now will get you nothing. Come with me and be quiet. I screamed into the dirt as loud as I wanted to when my mother had been stabbed through the heart. He climbed he clammed a hand over my mouth, pinching my lip hard against my teeth. I tried to twist away and claw at him, but he swung his leg over me, sitting on my lower back and pinning my arms between us. He kept hold of my mouth with my hand while fumbling with the other. I grasped and tried to bite him again, without success. In seconds, he tossed the handkerchief next to my face and then let me go, only long enough to block my shouts with the cloth inside. He clenched it brutally behind my head. I sobbed and gagged, vaguely hoping I couldn't vomit into the handkerchief. Camara, you're making me do this, he whispered, his voice furious. His weight shifted again, and something whipped the warm air, his belt as he yanked it off. Hot. It was so hot with him on top of me, and I could barely breathe to fight. I felt suffocated by his proximity. Whatever. But it was too late. His hands found mine in the darkness, and we bound by the wrist, slightly behind my back, with a leather strap. He rolled off me then and heavered me to my feet, seizing my elbow like a vest. That didn't stop me from struggling so much he practically had to carry me under his arm. A blow to the back of my neck stopped me. Finally, as we made it into a dense stand of palms, I bent forward, kicking and so I didn't see where it came from. It wasn't Ramsey since both of his hands were occupied. I didn't have a chance to look around as the pond blinded me. I only saw the back of the covered wagon. Ramsey let go of me and fell to my knees, and I fell to my knees, and then on my face, since I couldn't catch myself on my hands. I rolled onto my side, blinking away the sweat and dirt. To see Ramsey seize a man by the shirt, only to shove him away. Don't touch her, Ramsey snared. I heard the smirk in the other man's voice, even if I couldn't see it. It looked like you needed help, Radimus tips. What a match. I would have rescued you from your fierce little assassin earlier, but I didn't want to draw any more attention to our position than she already had. Guards, Ramsey wiped sweat and maybe blood from his brow and looked down at me. She must be mad with grief. Does she know who her friends are, stupid girl? Don't call her that, Ramsey said. Whatever her fool mother did to get herself killed, Grandma Camara must have watched her die. It couldn't have been easy. Your father is dead too, and yet you are holding it together. My breath caught. They killed Hannah as well. Horror rose with the bile in my throat. Ramsey raised a hand, his voice tight. Don't, Nara. I. It's too new. Have it your way. Just know that every one of us have sacrificed a lot for the God. We're all lost someone, but that's just the price we have to pay. She'll best learn the same lesson too. Hannah. Hannah might have been only pretending to be married to my mother, but I've known him all my life, and he was the closest thing I had to a father. A snob lodged in my chest, a terrible winch escaping from behind my gag. In contrast, Rama was just standing there. When the men who'd murdered his father were nearby, maybe even right in front of him, in form of this narrating. It didn't matter if the Twilighters would spare my life in exchange for my confidence. If their offer wasn't just a trick to discover what I knew before they killed me, that wasn't a trade that I or anyone should be willing to make. And yet Raman must have made such a bargain for himself. If he wasn't already their creature through and through, in either case, it wasn't just dangerous, it was inhuman. I thought I'd known him, but I've been so very wrong. How could I know anyone? That was a lesson my mother had tried to teach me. I just learned it too late. But perhaps I learned a final lesson, even if it was too late for her. Never fall in love, because this was apparently what happened when you did. And Naren turned my way, still making noise. Is she even worth all this trouble? Although she is a pretty thing, I'll give you that. Ramy was in his face again. She's mine. I told you not to touch her. Never touch her. A pretty thing, his. Maybe that was the only reason I wasn't dead. He finally managed to claim me. I'd always viewed my lack of desire like a stone in the path of becoming like my mother. Now it would be a stone that I would use to build a wall between me and people like this, so they could never touch me. I would reflect my brokenness to be my armor. If I ever escaped, half rolling, half itching along the ground like a caterpillar, I tried to drag myself away from them both. Get control of yourself, Naren shoved Ramsey back. So she's yours, understood. Now do you want to get her in the wagon or let her crawl away? They both came for me. Ramsey took my shoulders, his fingers digging into my arms as he climbed into the back of the wagon with me, while Nair took my legs. I thrust, trying to kick Nair in the face without success. At least he let go of me once I was inside. I kicked the side of the wagon instead, over and over, my feet pounding against the wooden slats at a giant's knot. I brushed my heels through my tiny slippers, but I didn't care. She is a wild one, Nair said. I didn't think you needed it for your lady now, but there's some moth in the satch here, Mohol. Ramsey drew me to his chest to hold me still, trapping my legs with his and leaning against the front wall of the wagon. His skin was hot, sticky, touching too much of mine. Shh, he said in my ear, gently, somehow after all the violence, comforting. I wanted to vomit more than ever. He leaned, reaching with one arm, and pulled a small bottle from a leather bag. I couldn't see clearly in the darkness, but I knew well what Moth, Mohol was. I struggled harder, snobbing, but it was no use. He slipped part of that saga handkerchief up over my nose, uncapped the bottle with his teeth, and poured some in his palm. Then he pressed his hand over my nose and mouth. I had time to thrust once more before the dizziness hit me in a wave. I got you, Chimera, was the last thing I heard in the waking world. For a while I couldn't open my eyes, not even in a sleeping realm, unlike the duty tonics my mother had occasionally given me. Straight essential of morphine, whatever it is, kept me too far under at first. I didn't know how much time was passing, but I had the vague, dragging sense of a slipping by in my middle nightmares. When I next opened my eyes, there was no covered wagon around me, only walls. They were the thick gray stone of an impenetrable keep. Torches burnt in squares every few feet to keep the shadows at bay. I was alone, standing in a surprisingly warm hallway and wearing a clean black dress, darker than ever, but no stains or rips. This wasn't the waking world then, but it wasn't my clearing. The air had a familiar, clean, woody scent, Ramsey's soap. Ramsey had held me as he passed out, and he must have gone to sleep next to me in the wagon. That would mean that would mean this was his soul. Yeah. I wasn't dizzy here, or sweaty, or battered and bald, but I was just afraid, and the weight of my grief was enough to crush me. Despite the rich tapestry lining the wall, the lush burgundy rug under my feet, the warmth in the air, this place felt like a prison. I spun a full circle, hugging myself and quaking like a palm frond in the wind. I tried to wake up, but I couldn't. The mold had relaxed its grip on me, but not enough for my spirit to come fully back to my body. The mind was always less affected by sleep than the flesh, which was how soul walkers could do what we do. For as long, I wondered what Ramsey's soul looked like. Now I only wanted to close my eyes again, anything but explore, which would feel like drawing closer to him than I already was. But there was no way I could let myself slip back into dreams. I was too vulnerable, too afraid to just let go and drift. And yet, without my own soul or ability to wake up, I had nowhere else to go. I could have found the door out to my clearing, but I didn't think my legs would carry me that far. They were already threatening to bulk. I wanted to curl up in a corner and hide, but I couldn't stomach letting the walls of Ramsey's souls touch me. I would have rather stood in one spot and not moved. It was then that the black door appeared. I halted straight forward, as if running into an entrance. Oh shoot! Damn. Oh shoot! Okay. La. I wanted to curl up in the corner and hide, but I couldn't stomach letting the walls around me so touch me. I couldn't have rather stood. I would have rather stood in the one spot and not moved. It was then that the black door appeared. I hurried straight forward, as if running into an embrace. Somehow, for the first time in my life, it was a source of comfort. It was familiar, something I'd seen my entire life, no matter the soul. It was something I'd so long associated with my mother, even if it was only through her prohibition of it. I wasn't stupid enough to open it, not yet. But I threw myself against it and slid down to length, pressure building in my throat and behind my eyes. Howling Zelda, oh God, mama, there, with my shoulders pressed against the smooth, warm surface and my knees hugged my chest. A cry rippled through me. I sobbed until I couldn't anymore. Eventually, I grew calm enough to see straight. I was every bit in the same place, alone, in danger, and with no one I could trust. But I felt empty, at least, if not at peace. Blinking, swollen eyes, I looked down at my arms to where something rests on a dark stone next to my foot. A single red rose petal, just thin enough to have been slipped under the black door. Oh wow. All right, y'all. Go to chapter 4 the next time. Okay. Thanks for listening. All right, y'all. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. And donate to my channel if you will. And check out my other channel. Okay. Love y'all.